in today's video, we're going to be talking about, is WMMA ruining the UFC? The first question I have for everyone is, if WMMA was its own organisation, would it be successful? No, we all know it wouldn't be. The only reason WMMA works in the UFC is because it has a men's divisions carrying it and bringing in the revenue to keep it afloat. Just because 1 out of 10 WMMA fights are decent doesn't mean we need to keep all of these women's fighters on the roster and paying them just as much or a little bit less than the men when they bring in way less revenue. The only comeback people have to this argument is Ronda Rousey. But we all know, just like Conor McGregor, Ronda Rousey is a one-time occurrence. It will not happen again, especially in the women's division. In the men's division, that's more of a chance due to the amount of knockouts and the finishes people can get. You can have a prospect coming off 9 KOs in the men's division, but that is not a possibility in the women's division. We always see the women's fights go the distance unless there's some crazy damage or crazy KO, which happens on a freak occurrence. Dana literally said he wouldn't ever include women in the UFC. The only reason he did is because of the hashtag #MeToo movement becoming so popular. He then included the women's divisions in the UFC. At the start, it didn't bring any money until Ronda Rousey came in and brought eyes and buys to the sport. But one fighter isn't enough. One fighter isn't enough to keep a whole organisation afloat, a whole division afloat by itself. And then we talk about these women are getting paid nearly as much as the men for their performances. And we've got Jairzinho Rozenstruik in the heavyweight division getting cut from the UFC after losing to a top 5 heavyweight in Sergey Pavlovich. What is this? Pavlovich is a top 5 fighter in the heavyweight division. He was the boogeyman of the division before Tom Aspinall took him out. And Rozenstruik is getting cut for losing to him. These women are going to decision after the decision with no entertainment and no value, and a top 10 contender at heavyweight is getting cut to save money. The fact is, they never put women's fights on Saudi or Abu Dhabi cards, and that is because they know people don't want them. No one cares. There is no hype. They never ever put on the women's fights in the Saudi or Abu Dhabi cards because they know there is no hype. No one wants to watch them. It either goes to a boring decision or a lackluster KO that happens once in a blue moon. And then the crowd at UFC events are sexist in themselves. How come they're always so quick to boo male fighters for having a boring performance, but when women's fights are boring, it takes so long for them to boo? They'll wait until the end of the fight to boo. They'll clap Valentina Shevchenko for her performance against Alex Grasso, and they'll have the cheek to boo O'Malley versus Marab when the levels is so clear. It's not even close. These women are getting paid just as much as the male fighters. They're getting paid 100 to show, 100 to win when they've been in the UFC a long time. Imagine what the UFC could do with this money if they got rid of the female divisions. We could have more men's divisions, a 165 division. We could move welterweight up to 175. We could have a 225 division in between light heavyweight and heavyweight. What are we doing? What are we doing? But fine, the UFC doesn't want to get rid of the women's divisions due to the backlash. Fine, there are so many ways we could improve them. We could make them 3-minute rounds instead of 5. Why do they need a fight for just as long as the men when they don't have the cardio? We should make it 3-minute rounds or 5 3-minute rounds. The cage should be smaller so they are forced to confront each other more. They literally used to have a smaller cage for the flyweight and the bantamweight division. Why do we not have this for the women's division? There are literally cages that get smaller and get bigger, expand and extend. The UFC have the money to get these cages so that they don't have to change venue or change cage. They can just extend it or bring it in. They should also allow knees to grounded opponents in the women's divisions. This is because there's no KOs. There's no excitement. We need excitement. If they allow knees to grounded opponents, that will bring more excitement to the sport, bring more KOs, bring more fans. There's so many ways to improve the women's divisions. If you don't want to get rid of them, I think you should get rid of them. But if you don't, there's so many ways to improve it. But they're not doing anything. They're just letting it get worse and worse. We have Kayla Harrison clearly juicing on the roids, with delts bigger than most men in the world. Even bodybuilders with a bicep vein that is usually unattainable for women. Her face has changed so much since her Olympic days. Either we should ban them or fully allow steroids in the women's division to allow for more KOs and bigger violence and fun for the fans. At the end of the day, the UFC is an entertainment service and needs to provide for the fans, and they are not doing that at the moment. Why do we need specific toilet breaks in between the fights? Fans literally see women's fights at toilet breaks. There's memes about it. Why do we need this as fans? We should have fight after fight after fight of hype. We can do this. This can happen. But we're stopping it from happening. To cater for such